The month of July has come and gone, so it's time once again to recount what I've been up to over the past month. As usual, we're going to talk about games, anime, and anything else pop culture related I dabbled in and more. A reminder to everyone that the goal for 2021 is to reach 5,000 subscribers here on YouTube, and with your help, I know we can do it. So subscribe if you haven't already, and if this is your first time watching a video in this series, these aren't heavy on editing, so just sit back, relax, and put this in the background while you do something else. With that out the way, let's go over what I've been up to in July 2021. Let's start with the anime today. The biggest one and my personal favorite that I watched last month was SSSS Dynazenon, though I won't be covering that alone, because while I saw Dynazenon for the first time, I actually rewatched the show as a successor to Gridman along with some friends who were watching it for the first time, and then proceeded to watch Dynazenon again with them for their first viewing as well. So yes, I watched Dynazenon twice in the span of about 3 weeks, but I love the show so much I didn't mind. Just to briefly talk about Gridman, if you didn't know, I adore this show. The characters are so likable, the world they inhabit is fascinating with some interesting reveals and twists you don't see coming, the music is great, the visuals along with the designs of the kaiju and Gridman himself are great to look at, and above all else, the show has a lot of heart. My first watch of the show hooked me, and my rewatch with my friends solidified it as one of my favorite anime of the modern era. The final episode especially is guaranteed to put a smile on your face. But what about Dynazenon, its successor? It's different, but just as good in its own way. Dynazenon is probably the most realistic character interactions I've ever seen in an anime, to the point it can almost be humorous. But the main cast of Dynazenon grows a lot in 12 short episodes, and I love their dynamic not only as friends, but as a team. Every episode you can see clear and also frequently subtle signs that they're just a bit different than the last episode you saw them in, and it's a joy seeing just how far they come by the end. Dynazenon is also a great combiner super robot show, a subgenre that used to be a staple of anime, but has been on the decline in the past decade. Every fight has good tension, animation, and there's some moments that genuinely had me out of my seat jumping with hype. It's such a fun show, and combined with Gridman, they make up a universe I cannot wait to see more of. The other anime I watched in July was one I didn't know a single thing about going in, but heard a lot of praise for, and that was 86. Like Gridman and Dynazenon, 86 is also a mecha anime, but certainly much different in tone. Set in a world where the government of a civilization touts itself as the properest utopia to its citizens, many dark secrets lie under the surface. You see, the country is at war, but they use, quote, autonomous machines to do the fighting for them, so there's no casualties. And surprise, surprise, that's a lie, and these machines are actually being piloted by a group of outsiders called 86 that the government doesn't recognize as people. The story follows a young military major by the name of Melise, who forms a psychic link to strategize and lead a group of 86 in battle from the safe confines of her military base in the city. The relationship with this privileged military girl and these 86 who aren't seen as human forms the backbone of the show, and I was surprised how much it got me invested. Melise and the members of her squadron are of course from different walks of life with different life expectancies, so that routinely leads to friction and very harsh conflicts at times, but they do grow together, and Melise, especially by the end of the season, matures considerably from the innocent and naive girl you meet her as. Usually with anime, or really shows in general, I feel they often start off strong, dip and rise in interest as the show goes on, and then picks back up again for the climax. But I was surprised to find myself getting more and more invested and intrigued by the world of 86 as the show moved along towards the end. Like I alluded to earlier, there's a lot of dark things underneath the surface, and there were some moments of character interaction that had my undivided attention. A second season is already confirmed, and while I'm not dying waiting to find out what comes next, I am looking forward to see where the series goes from here. There's a few games I spent a good amount of time with last month, but what I want to start the gaming section with is talking about the Super Robot Wars 30th anniversary event. Hence the name, this year marks the 30th anniversary of the series, and we finally got an information blowout on SRW 30, the anniversary game. It was an exciting time seeing the community come together to celebrate this series we're all so passionate about, and getting to react to the event with a big group of friends was one of my highlights of the entire year. SRW 30 itself is looking great, and it being the first non-OG game in the series to get a localization ever is nothing short of insane. For the series anniversary, I even put out my biggest video project to date, where I ranked all 30 games I've beaten in the series. It was not easy, and I'm glad I made the decision to split it into 2 parts for the sake of my sanity. But I'm happy with the end result, and everyone else seemed to like it, so that makes me happy. Here's to 30 more years for this amazing series. Now, the first game I spent a lot of time playing last month was actually The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, a game I played before back on the 360, but this was my first time playing with mods, and I can assure you I cannot and will not ever look back again. Modders in general are some of the most creative and talented people in gaming, and the thing these modders have been able to do with Skyrim is mind-blowing. From more simple things like 4K textures and weapons, to just insane things like recreating the entire game from scratch with different areas and a revamped story, or altering the entire combat system and skill trees. I had such a blast customizing my game with almost 100 mods that I can't believe I ever played vanilla Skyrim. Calling it a night and day experience is putting it mildly. Just talking about it now has me excited to go back. Now the next game is the one I spent the most time with in July, and that's Monster Hunter Stories 2. Originally I was going to leave this game on the back burner, mainly because I wanted to play the first before a sequel, and I had other things to play. But the game came out and everyone I knew was raving about it, and while I didn't get to play on release, someone saw my interest and was nice enough to help me get it as a birthday gift. And Stories 2 honestly exceeded all my expectations. Whoever at Capcom thought crossing over Monster Hunter with monster collecting deserves a reward. As much as I don't want to compare it to Pokemon, there were times when I was tempted to catch every creature I could so I can train them and make my own ultimate team. It could be pretty addicting, and I was surprised how good the battle system was. In the 50 hours I spent with the game, I never got tired of the rock paper scissors combat, and the ways they implemented traditional Monster Hunter mechanics and assets into every facet of the game was masterfully done. The story unfortunately fell flat for me despite its potential, but the other areas of the game more than made up for it. The post-game seems pretty robust, so I'm excited to eventually return to it. The final game I spent time with last month was Pokemon Unite, and honestly I won't spend much time on this at all. It's a MOBA with a Pokemon skin over it. If you play League of Legends, Arena of Valor, or any other MOBA with this camera perspective, you know what you're getting into. But with that being said, it's fun. I like Pokemon, and I often like MOBAs, so I spent a nice amount of time with Unite. It's free as well, so you lose nothing by giving it a shot. I briefly mentioned it, but July also saw my birthday, and with it, another year of my life comes to a close. And honestly, I spent a lot of not only my birthday, but July itself reflecting not only the past year, but my life as a whole. My 20s especially. Next year I'll be turning 30, and I'll have to say goodbye to what they say are supposed to be the best years of your life. But honestly, my 20s weren't, or at least not in the way they are for many others. I spent my early 20s trying to escape from an abusive household, and I thankfully succeeded. And I was focused on just trying to make a living supporting myself working horrible 9-to-5 jobs in my mid-20s. And while these last few years have had their positive sides, with me finally reaching some form of stability for the literal first time in my life, the immediate future looks more uncertain than ever in which way my life will lead. And all that isn't to say there hasn't been good moments this past decade. There's of course been plenty. Numerous moments of me forgetting about my troubles, small victories, and positive growth as a human being. But there's a lot of really bad mixed in there, and I'm hoping that by some miracle this upcoming decade is a turnaround for me in many ways. I actually used to hate my birthdays because no one ever remembered or cared. No calls from family, no surprise gifts, no happy birthdays, no anything. But these past several years have been good. Thanks to all the people I've met through YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and so on, I felt like my presence on this planet has served as a positive influence on the lives of numerous people, and that makes me happy. And because of that, I've been able to feel like, despite the fact it's been drilled into me to believe otherwise, my journey in this life so far is worth something, and I can look forward to turning another year older.